Hi there. I am Dr. Juicy Jill, living the juicy life here in West Hollywood, California. And actually, today I'm broadcasting from Newport Beach on a little holiday. So, anybody who's listening, please chime in so I can address you and make any comments so I know that you're listening. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. Henry Kreuter, also known as Sifu Slim. He is joining us all the way from the Austrian Alps. How exciting! Henry is a wellness coach, speaker, mentor, and author of the books Sedentary Nation and The Aging Athlete. Today, we are discussing Sifu's newest book to be released later this summer. Can't wait to read. What elite athletes wish their parents had told them. If you're raising a child athlete, this is something you need to watch. So, good morning, Sifu. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, Dr. Jill. Here's a little picture to give you an idea of where I am. If people can see that, your typical Austrian Alps scene. I'm in Kitzbühel, which is home of a very famous downhill race. And Austria is one of the places I've been in the world that most emphasizes wellness. And that's not something new. They've always been into that. So even our grandparents and people before them had issues of wellness focus to make them be able to live the life that they had to live.
Wow, how exciting. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into this. I know you've done a lot of research, and I know that's a big question. So
yeah, if you ask the people that were my friends, remember back in the days when we had time to just hang out with our friends and there was no rush, and didn't have to get anywhere, didn't have to go to our computer or our smartphones, and we actually could hang out on front porches and in people's attics and in play areas and hang out with our friends. Well, my friends thought of me as a curious person. Not that I was strange, although some may have thought so. I was curious that I wanted to know things. I asked them questions. I asked their parents, their older brothers and sisters, the neighbors. I wanted to know why things happened the way they did. And that's kind of been the plight of my life, learning more about things in general.
Okay. Well, Roger from Vermont says hello. So hi, Roger. So today's topic is I think is pretty important for especially our audience, which is mostly moms that are watching and raising child athletes. And myself as a mom of multiple child athletes. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, kind of what the now, adults have to say, what they wish they would have known earlier, so that maybe we as the mothers rearing these new athletes can maybe forge a different path for them. Because how much do you push them? How much leeway do you give them? Whether it's a team sport, teaching them, to be part of a team versus, if it's a solo sport. So I'll let you take the reins with that.
So to give you a little bit of background on my writing, in 2008, I started with a book called Sedentary Nation that you mentioned. And the subtitle of that book is The Answers Are Not Found in the New Millennium. They're in 1910. So I'll just take you through those books and see how I got to the one that you just mentioned, the one that's soon to be released about the child athlete. So our ancestors in 1910, let's say they came from Europe, and let's say they landed on the eastern seaboard. Did they have an easy life? Not really. They had lives that were mandatory, yet those laws came in later. And then those people had to go to work, very arduous, long days, sometimes 6 or 7 days a week. And how could they have done that if they had sleep disorder? So that's the question I started with. And then my answer was they were bone tired at the end of the day. And I'm not suggesting that that's what we should be, but I say we should move our bodies, get mind, body, and spirit in a way that's balanced. And then at the end of the day, instead of being wired, as many people are, flipping channels or internet or just their mind racing in the modern neurotic era, these people went to sleep. And that's what I'm hoping that we can do by keeping a more balanced life.
Absolutely. That is something that I recommend to not just my clients, but to, to my children as well. The routine of having a bedtime routine, whether it's a bath or a shower, and then reading a nighttime story. We have gotten lost with that because we're so busy. And as parents also, we want to relax too.
Yeah.
And maybe making kind of a nighttime ritual that is relaxing for the whole family so that we can actually join in. And I had actually interviewed a friend and colleague of mine earlier, Geeta Winter, who has written a book about children's meditation. So I have a meditation practice that I use in the mornings. But then at night, there is a children's meditation ritual that I don't do all the time, but I do it because it's busy. But incorporating that definitely helps them sleep better. So I think
Yeah.
getting adequate sleep for adults and for kids is key. So I'm interested to see what your research has told you about, what these athletes had wished they had known earlier.
Okay, so real quick, I'll take you through that from that step. I had my next book, The Aging Athlete. So it's about athletes, high school, college, and pro, military people, Broadway dancers, landscapers. Those are called industrial athletes. Anybody who's got this high performance physical job, what happens to these people, no matter what age they are, after they leave that high performance type of physical activity? And the answer I've come up with in over 1,000 interviews is more than 90% become mostly sedentary. That means they may go through some peaks of trying to get back into activity, and then they fall off the wagon, or they may try to get in shape for a wedding or something like this, or they have a heart ailment, they try to get back into it. But in terms of leaving their activity at 15, 30 years of age, 55 years of age, retiring general contractor, something like that, the answer is the same in every case. In over 1,000 interviews times 10 people they know. So that takes us up over 10,000 people I'm drawing upon, which takes anecdotal and puts it into the realm of scientific study. And I'm hoping to get a university with a budget and with a staff so we can look into that. So while I was finalizing that book, which has been a great experience, it's really changed my life, The Aging Athlete. A mother told me, a mother of 2 kids, she said, look, she said, you've got a great story, but you're coming out to these athletes and they're already denying the fact that they have a problem in some respects because they're not seeking help. She said, go after the young people, go after the fruit that's still on the tree, and the parents and the coaches who can input, some sort of wellness program and balance program for these young people. So write your next book. And she's actually the person, a mom's the one who told me, says, here's your title, What Elite Athletes Wish Their Parents Had Told Them, Vital Information for Your Junior Athlete. Now there's a long title and a subtitle. I'm still reaching out. If somebody's got a zinger 5-word thing, I would love to hear from you, because I'm still, I'm able to change the cover. But what happened is when I looked into this whole progression of these kid athletes, I found that there was this excessive emphasis on performance, whereas when I was a kid, I certainly wanted to win. I certainly wanted to make the team, and I wanted to do well. But I still wanted to go out and play with my friends and kind of be normal, and not just be programmed like a surgeon who gave me the idea for The Aging Athlete. He said, when you go to a team nowadays, and he's a surgeon about my age, and he puts these athletes back together with new parts and surgeries. He said, when you go to a traveling team, these coaches, they don't want some of you, they want all of you. And so that's something I'd love to hear your comment as a mom who's raised some child athletes.
Absolutely. There's so much in what you said there that I want to comment on. I think, I have seen, not just with my kids, but with my clients that I see now. Obviously, they're older. I do see some ex-professional athletes that, they used to have to make weight. And they weighed 30, 40 pounds heavier, and they were just like always eating the amount that they ate. And then you're right, they come out and it's like there's no reintroduction into the real world of like how to eat healthy. And You know, especially like boxers, fighters, they have to dehydrate to make weight and everything. It's not good for your body. So I think that's an amazing thing, that reintroduction to the real world. I think it's definitely a niche that needs to be filled. So I'm super thankful to be talking with you and that you have that available for people. The other thing that you mentioned is as far as the athletes, you know, being not just wanting part of them, but wanting all of them, and then learning to not just, you know, win the gold medal, but also, you know, be okay with maybe winning nothing, no medal, and just, you know, being there. And myself as a mom, I have seen my youngest son is he actually is a competitive tumbler and trampoline athlete that aspires to actually go to the Olympics. And I can say that he wins number one, the gold, for the majority of the times. But I have seen him maybe get third or fourth. And the smile on that kid's face and in that kid's eyes is exactly the same, if not even more, when he even hasn't won. So, you know, I think he understands that it's just, you know, part of competing, giving it what you have. Now, when he comes off, you know, he may be a little disappointed. And I have seen him, you know, have that competitive aspect in other areas, you know, and if he's not the greatest at something in a different field, it kind of weighs on him. So I'm not sure exactly how to translate that, or how to let him know, you know, you can't always be the best at everything, because there is that competitive nature. I have it. He got it from me. Uh, so, so I'd love your insight on how to actually let them know about that so that they
Yeah,
can.
well, here's a very important thing. I was very blessed along the way to learn from other coaches when I was a kid, and even now when I go take a lesson in skiing, golf, or in tennis, or jujitsu, whatever I'm doing, the people who give me those lessons, and they could be an 18-year-old person who's a black belt, or an 18-year-old tennis player, or an 80-year-old golf instructor, doesn't matter. What thankfully they've been able to share with me is that they say I'm a relief. And why do they say I'm a relief? I mean, I'm a decent athlete. You know, I know how to move my body fairly well, but I'm not world-class athlete, and I'm not hyper competitive. I mean, I'm not an A personality, but you know, I like to do my best. And if my best that day wins the day, then so be it. And if I come in fourth or 15th place, that's fine. Also, I just do my best, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy improving or even maintaining some of the skills that I work so hard as a young person. If I can still shoot a round of golf in the 80s, boy, that's a big thrill, because I don't play as much as I did when I was in, you know, 16 and 20 and that kind of thing. But what these people tell me is that I'm coachable. Oh my goodness. And that's such a blessing to be called that, to be coachable, because that means people who know what they're doing, who have seen thousands, if not tens of thousands of people for an hour at a time over the course of their professional careers. And they tell me that I'm coachable and I'm a relief. That means a lot to me, because I'm trying to do the same thing with other people. And you wouldn't believe how hard it is to find people who are coachable, especially in this era that I call the neurotic society, this more is more society. People are so programmed on production, and we have to get this done today, that they often don't take a stance to step back and examine themselves. And that's what people had time to do. If they worked in agriculture, you have all this thinking time, and you're moving at the same time. And you go back to the hunter-gatherer and tribal people, when you're going on an 18-mile walk to get to where the wild game are located to do your hunting, there's a lot of thinking time. And then when you're waiting for an animal to pass, even more thinking time, and then cooking the animal, cleaning. There's all this thinking time that's unrelated to us being programmed by a corporate entity on a commercial event, or our school that's pressuring us to win. So somehow I tapped into that tribal nature, and I was kind of born with it, but I really worked hard on getting deeper into that awareness and mindfulness about our historic trajectory from the tribal villages, and small groups of people sharing life and mindfulness and the cooperative ethic.
Well, I think what you just mentioned as far as being coachable ties into one of our questions that we received from Roger from Vermont. Should coaches be better chosen?
Yeah, well, here's the tricky part, Roger. When you talk to coaches, and I was at a personal training seminar in Anaheim in December, and one of the coaches actually was a recent college graduate, and she told me on her soccer team down in Arizona, she said her coach, a female coach for her female soccer team, a pretty top school, somewhere in the top 50 in the United States. She said the coach, who was a relatively new coach at her school, got the girls together, and she said, hey, look, I don't mean to bring this up right now, but I really have to. It's kind of my life and my way to make a living. I've been told by the higher ups at our university that if we don't have a winning season, I'm out of a job. So this is this modern thing, and it was going on, at a high level when I was in high school in the 70s, that you had to win in order to look good in your job. So what does that tell you about this crazy society? We're not building a well-rounded athlete. We're building someone who's a win or feel bad about themselves type of athlete. And I think that's where society has gone wrong. And these poor coaches, they're thrown into that and into that matrix, just like in the corporate world. If you don't bring in the business, get the sale, keep the client, what have you, you're ostracized and you're given a warning or written up, and you may be losing your job because of it, even though you've done your best.
Absolutely. It's a whole retraining of everybody's thinking to get the best effect with that. So what about, you had mentioned about you're taking the one kid to this and you got the other kid in this. What happens when you have a kid that's part of a team sport that's just like, I don't feel like I want to play. I don't know that this is for me anymore. As far as teaching them, if you're part of a team, then you actually need to pull up your part of it versus thank you for expressing your feelings to me. And I appreciate that. And I honor that. And maybe we won't be part of this, because I think there's two different lessons there. And I think both are great, but I don't know how to merge them. And I know I'm not the only one with multiple children in sports. So
no, it's, I mentioned this idea of a traveling team, and the surgeon who told me that if you make this team, the coach doesn't want part of you, he or she wants all of you. Now, that's the problem. Before I headed to Austria, I hung out with a teacher, and this teacher in Honolulu was telling me about the award-winning teacher at her charter school. And I said, let me guess. I'm a 55-year-old person, and I've been around teachers. I worked in education. I said, let me guess. This is the teacher who comes there before any of the other teachers, works their tail off all day, interacts with all the students, and then goes home the last at the end of the day. Would that be the teacher who won the Teacher of the Award of the Year award at your school? And she said, that's exactly that person. I said, that's exactly the person who, in my opinion, and I'm going to hit this one pretty hard right now, that's the person who shouldn't get the award. And the school should not condone that type of behavior. If you're a balanced person, you should be able to work maybe 4 to 6 hours on the same thing and be on. And being on, we all know what that means. That means being at a high level of productivity, being able to be aware, being able to keep yourself safe, not have your heart racing, not be in a place where you're losing your concentration. You could trip or do something wrong. And the same thing with the students you're teaching. You're aware of them. You've got 33 students maybe in a class, and you're aware, and you can peacefully and softly interact with them and maybe raise the energy level when needed, but you're not going to go hyperactive all day long and be what we call a super teacher. I call that an unbalanced teacher who's missing out on 30 or 40 years of their life. If they were a balanced teacher, they'd have room to exercise in the morning. They'd have time to read their own books. They'd have time to come to see Dr. Jill before they have problems for ideas about maintenance, health maintenance. They'd have time to get a massage. They'd have time to go see their parents and siblings and their friends. That to me is the teacher who should get the Teacher of the Year award. And you shouldn't even give it to one. They should give it to all the staff who's a balanced, who are working through their day, as balanced teachers. Though they should all get that award.
Absolutely, leading by example, and that's what I do. I work with a lot of high functioning people, CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies, and they tell me they don't have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I say, no, you do have. It's what's a priority to you, and they will run themselves into the ground. And for me, I am my product, so I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. And I have gotten stuck in that grind of, continuing to do things, even if it's things that I really enjoy doing, like posting on Facebook and motivational things to help people. It ultimately is extending my energy somewhere else where I need to be refilling my cup, whether it be just completely unplugging from electronics, at a certain time at night, which I think is great to do with your children as well, so that you can get that deep, restful sleep so that you can recharge. Because we're ultimately teaching our children how to live their lives too. So if we're harried and we're never taking care of ourselves, then they're going to perpetuate that. That's part of why I am the way that I am. My mom, I love her to death, but she can't sit still for more than 5 minutes because she's got to be doing something. And so I have gotten that passed down to me where it's a little bit difficult to just sit and refill my cup. Let me see what Roger says. Today, many teams have jobs to help out who also play sports. Can they do both?
Yeah, the answer, the answer that is the penultimate answer, and it overlies everything I'm saying, that survival is the number one thing. So if you were a kid in the Depression or a kid in the 1800s on a farm, there were times of the year, or maybe most of the time of the year, where you had to exhaust yourself just to keep things going, to pay your rent so you're not out on the street. Being homeless in a bad situation is something that you certainly don't want. I do know people who live in their cars. You've seen that in California. There's a lot of that going on. And many of them tell me that they're happier, taking care of themselves and not having to pay a $2,500 a month rent and work 2 or 3 jobs just to pay for that. So, you have to balance all these things out and make decisions. So life is, it's a moving target. What do you do? So to answer the question about the jobs, you've got to, if you plan it out, that's what I would say. If you plan it out with mindfulness, with communication to your other family members, to your boss, to your school, and you use those people as a resource, and you think it through, and then you just make a decision with that information. That's really, I guess, the best that you can do. Hopefully you won't blow a fuse at age 16 in the process, which is to be avoided. But I mean, it's happened. We can look at our ancestors and we can see people who have blown fuses and ridden a horse and fallen off a horse, or been driving a tractor and did something wrong because they were out of concentration or hyper fatigued. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. Me being a person who's never had kids but did a lot of work with kids, I could go home most every night and shut off the world at some time between 6 and 10 at night. I could shut off the world and wind down. There was no urgent situation like people who have kids that have to take care of that. And I honor the people who do that, and many people consider that a superhuman capability just to be a parent.
Well, thank you. I do feel like Superwoman sometimes, getting it all done. And you know what? The reality is, it's never all done. And that's okay. And I think that's an important message to give moms, just parents in general, and kids in general too. It's never all done. There's always going to be that one more thing. And guess what? When we wake up tomorrow, the world is still going to be spinning, whether that one thing got done or not. And, teaching hard work and balance at the same time is a slippery slope. But I'm super glad that we discussed it today. And I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of the parents out there. I want to direct people to your website for more information. It's www.sifuslim.com, where people can reach out to you directly, as well as find out where to purchase your books. I believe they're all available on Amazon, and I am looking forward to seeing your newest release, hopefully a little bit later this summer. Can't wait to see that, to read that. Do you have any parting comments for us?
Yeah, I have a couple of giveaways. You want me to mention those?
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm offering for people who are living life where they need a little intervention, a 30-minute consultation free of charge. And we'll go through some steps that will hopefully help you develop your wellness action plan. So we know how to take care of our car, our home, our pets. What about having a plan so we know how to take care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit? So I offer that free consultation through the internet. We can group up there. And then I also have a retreat coming up in November for health practitioners, people work in the wellness field, so that we can take care of them. All these people that were somewhat harried and busy in the wellness staffing in hospitals and clinics, massage centers, sports training, doctors, etc. We can take them out of the rat race a little bit and give them some mindfulness activities, some wellness messages, some wellness gems, and also give them some therapy. And that will be coming up in November in California. And I'm offering a 5% discount for anybody that emails me through SIFU Slim, sifuslim.com.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity. And perhaps we can meet in person when you're in California. That would be amazing.
That sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to it, Dr. Jill.
Yeah. Thank you again, Sifu, for all of your enlightening information. And I look forward to reading your new book. So thank you, everybody. Please feel free to share. Roger, thanks for hanging in there till the end. That was great. I'll put the little links in there as well, so you can go find those books as well as the freebies that Sifu offered. And please feel free to share with any friends that have child athletes out there. There's a lot of them, so the more people that see this, the more awareness, the better, transitioning them into the real world and teaching them a balanced overall life, which we all need. So thank you again, Sifu.
Wonderful to be here, Jill. Dr. Jill, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.